held up, revenues have slowed. That's the story. We know that. But if I had to take a shot at something alongside technically and fundamentally, at least this is intact. I want to show you O'Reilly because that's I talked about that. It got nailed on Friday. So let's just first look at O'Reilly. That nailed Friday. I talked about this breakout potentially being fake. I talked about that inverted hammers here. It got hit. And the reason, if we look at O'Reilly from it's a great stock. Again, don't get me wrong, but this is a market where you have to think ahead of all of these things. And if we look, it's a question of price to sales, cash flow per share. I'll take everything out running, right? This thing has just been running and running all cycle long. But then take a look at the revenue growth. It seems subtle here. But that's only because of this. When I zoom in, that revenue growth has fallen from about 10% all the way down to 6%. And so, again, cash flows can hold up, but margins are coming in on some of these stocks. Sorry, revenues are coming in. So margins can stay intact or even grow. And, you look at the operating margin at the company, still very high of the cycle. But to me, this is the story, operating revenue. Let's look at a 1 year on it. Look at that divergence. Maybe I'd go back 1 year. And if I just say, okay, right here, it kind of starts to show itself. Let's try it back to 12 and see, 2. So yeah. Now, it's not the lows of the cycle, right, back in 13. It's happened before. But I think the issue is that you're also at a valuation that you really weren't at back then. So, let's take off the margins. Let's leave on that margin. It kind of helps. So here we go. Operating margin at the highs, 3.3 times sales, revenue not coming along. The last time revenue was down here, you were down at 2 times sales, revenue growth. And so this thing is, now margins weren't as high either. But I play both. And I look at the chart and I look at the technical fundamental and I could see that this thing had weakness here and it got nailed. And we caught it on the option market pretty well. I have taken off some of the shorts because this in the option market is profitable and want to take it. But I do really want to see a bigger unwind here, so I'm not going to let this stock go. I'm going to keep a very close eye on it. I could see this being a false breakout and catching a lot of people and then washing them down to 248. That would be interesting. There's a lot of meat on the bone on this one. So that's all I have for the week. All right, so here's the after on that trade. You can see O'Reilly's been hit pretty hard since then. When I did the video, it was right here. Actually, that was the decline, the initial decline off the breakout. I'll show you on the markup. So this was the stock rallying. This was the actual breakout that everybody chased. This is when the earnings came out, but I noticed the revenue, of course. Here was the decline. Now this candle in here is right where we were looking at it. That breakdown. Now you can see the market kind of traded sideways, and that's when it took the real dive all the way down. Right there, we nailed that 248 target, basically 250, right? Rally back, of course, and it's still under a lot of pressure. You see this gap as I'm doing this video now. The stock is still well below that breakout level too. And one of the things that's really interesting about this type of strategy in terms of catching reversals, there's other stuff that goes on up here that you really have to know to look for. Probably even it shows up on a list because of certain things, but I'll show you the weekly chart. This was the long-term weekly chart, right? So you never see people really getting bearish anything long-term that looks like this. It's just very rare. And now what's even more interesting is if this stock really, really unwinds as I'm doing this, maybe we'll look at it down the road. That's that little breakout that I talked about. Everybody's conditioned to buy. We've broken this uptrend from about 2011 or so. If this really, really unwinds in a bigger context, that video would actually basically be the top. But I mean, we're not here or there right now. It's basically just to point out this was the trade. There's your breakout on the weekly. Everybody would love that. Normally it looks really like a big breakout here. But it's really by going into the daily charts here. And I didn't even call it really that early, to be honest. If you look where I called it all the way on the pullback into here. And even a lot of bulls would say, oh no, it's supposed to break out, pull back, and then hold this and go. And that's what they're missing on the pure technical side. They're certainly not going to be able to understand that this needs to break down even more into this range. And then even on the rally back, there was another reshort opportunity. But check out the volume as it collapsed, just as another side tutorial on this stuff. You can see right here, look at that. We'd certainly be right there. That's 3.5 million shares. That's probably the highest that we've seen in the entire time. So O'Reilly was a good one. Um, you know, you can see the defined support and you can sort of see, but the real thing is catching everybody here. A lot of bulls come in here. Let's check the volume on that. I don't know if I did it in the other, yeah, totally, yeah, so that's totally, you can see. So that's the beauty of it, right? Everybody gets in there, waffles around, doesn't hold, doesn't continue as a breakout, turns into a false breakout, panic, collapse. And there's your move. We're looking at 292 down to 250, so over $40. All right, we'll talk to you soon. Take care.